All right, BCI fam, welcome back to our second episode of the Members Only Podcast. It's your boy Tate here with Andy, and hopefully you heard our first episode where I talk with Andy and he goes real deep on the origins of BCI, how he got started in this industry, how he made his way down to Alabama, and how he got BCI created and how we got to where we are today. So, for this next episode, we know the time of year we are approaching. It is the holidays. So we wanted to dip into some holiday survival, what stress is, some imaginary stress items, some sidebar conversations we've had at the gym that we thought were pretty valuable. So we wanted to bring that to the table for y'all. So Andy, when it comes to the holidays, we talk about stress being one of the big issues.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit more on that.
Yeah. First of all, that was a pretty damn good intro.
Oh.
Like I think I ought to.
We
don't want to pass over it. That was going to be my follow-up. Did you actually practice that? Because that was pretty damn.
I got a special mirror at home. I stare at myself for that. No,
that's good. That's good. So holidays are a really difficult time for a lot of people, and I think if you've listened to some of the emails and things I posted about, I keep coming back to this one statistic that I learned about years ago, and it's that the average American gains 3 to 5 pounds every single year from October to January. They usually continue to do that over the course of their life. And this is how that insidious, 20-pound weight gain just kind of sneaks up on you eventually. A lot of that has to do with the stress of the holidays and how it disrupts your routines. And that's one of the things that we've talked a whole lot about here is the importance of having a routine, prioritizing it, and building these simple habits into your life. Because this topic has kind of been a hot topic around the gym, I can't remember who it was. Do you remember who I was talking to when Maddie was training her?
I can't. We talked about it about a day ago.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact client, but if you're listening, thank you, because you inspired this and our conversation did. And what we were talking about is I was joking around about the imaginary stress that people create during the holidays. And it started off as a joke because I was talking about how happy I was to see her there the week of Thanksgiving. Because what happens is as we get closer to a holiday or a big family event around the holidays, we start creating stress. We start worrying. We start projecting out into the future how hard it will be for us to work out and do all the other things that we need to do to prepare for the holidays.
Do you got any specific examples of that right off the top of your head?
Yeah, perfect one is like I'm not going to work out the day before Thanksgiving or the day after or the week of Thanksgiving. I know people that
to go buy this, you got to prep this.
Got to prepare to get out of town. I've got a lot to cook. We've got people coming in town. I got to get the house clean. And I'm not saying all those aren't very good reasons to be a little stressed out. But the way that you manage and deal with your stress is so, so important. And what I don't think people truly understand is that your level of health and fitness is a buffer against stress. So when you choose to not do something that enhances your health and your fitness, you're literally putting a checkbox in the column of, I'd like to have a little more stress, please. Because as you become more aerobically fit, as you build more strength in your body, what happens, and this is a very unscientific answer because I don't think you guys care about the details of that, is you simply become more resilient. That's how it is. It becomes this buffer. That's the best way that I can explain it. The more healthy and resilient you are, the more stress that you can actually handle. And I think what would be valuable for people to understand is like, what is stress? So there are 2 classic books that were written on stress that I ought to mention. One is called The Stress of Life. It's kind of like the classic text on what stress is. And Seyle, S-E-Y-L-E, is the author. He goes into the general adaptation syndrome. The GAS model is basically how we deal with stress. The other book, which is a little less, it's an easier read. It's a more digestible read. And it's by a guy named Robert Sapolsky, who's written a ton of great books. But he wrote a really good one on stress, basically, called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And again, he goes into gas and other examples there as well. But here's the overarching way that your body responds to stress. First of all, you have a part of your brain called the amygdala. It's always scanning for threats in your environment. This was an evolutionary part of your biology that was supposed to protect you from a saber-toothed tiger. Well, we don't have to worry about those things anymore, and because we're humans, we're great at creating worries. So our amygdala is on fire worrying about, in the context of this holiday situation, how am I going to get everything done I need to do and still work out so I can, do this holiday thing. And that stressor in and of itself really starts to just impose itself on you, and you will feel it. And then there's a pattern of thinking that happens. So from a scientific perspective, what happens is there's a stressor that hits you. And I think it might be valuable to talk about what a stressor is. A stressor could be a thought about things you have to do, but a stressor is also your workout. A stressor is also any argument or disagreement that you get into with people. A stressor is anything that impacts recovery and regeneration. Mm-hmm. So, for example, anything that affects sleep is going to raise stress. So, if you can accept that fitness is a buffer against stress, if you understand what stress is and know that stress does not discriminate, it is all of those things, and they're all weighing on you. And you can accept the gas model, which I'll explain here in a second. This is literally the key to being more resilient and not letting stress cripple you and keep you from doing the things that you truly want to do. So the gas model is based on a stressor that hits you, and then what happens, I wish we did have audio today because I could draw this out. What happens is your reserves go backwards. They go down. Now, with enough recovery, your body will then recover and supercompensate to a higher level that you were at before. The problem is most human beings, especially who work out and who are kind of beaten down by stress, they're never able to truly recover and regenerate. So then the idea of preparing a meal for your family becomes so stressful. It's I can't go work out too. I just can't do it. Mm-hmm. When in reality, if you could accept that you just need to keep showing up and doing the things that we talk about over and over and over again, eventually the idea of I can't work out during Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, it will dissipate. That's not a thought that crosses my mind, and I probably doesn't cross your mind either, but we accept we're different than our average customer at the gym, but we're humans and you're humans, and we all deal with stress in the exact same ways. So if you have strategies to buffer against stress and to deal with it, confront it, don't run from it. I use that term loosely because I don't want to trigger anybody that's listening to this. But don't run from the stress of fitting things in that make you more resilient as a whole. So, yeah, that pretty concise. I just felt like I just ranted there for about 7-8 minutes.
What I think would be useful for some people too is what are some tactics that you use? Say if you see those triggers, you feel those triggers, you start to feel that stress mount to where you kind of want to be I don't want to do that today, or I don't have time for that. What do you typically fall back to when you feel that type of stuff coming to get you back to your routine, back to what you normally do?
That's a good question. I would say kind of the first thing that I do is I start with questions. I'm a big believer in the idea of talking to yourself instead of listening to yourself. Mm-hmm. So when you're listening to yourself, it's that voice in your head telling you can't do all these things. Well, you can counteract that very easily by asking yourself a question. And the question that I often use all the time is that true? So if it was, I can't work out this week, the question is that true? If my immediate gut response is yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. My immediate follow-up in my mind is, what evidence do I have that this is true? Now, I think in the context of what we're talking about, some people might say that I've got a lot of evidence that I can't do this. Mm-hmm. However, I'd have you consider that in order to overwhelm yourself with enough evidence that you can do this, it requires you to do one thing: show up. You have to do that one time, just one time, to prove to yourself, oh, I can do that. And then this becomes a solvable problem when you can accept that you can do it differently. But if you stay stuck in that pattern of stress and you don't ask yourself questions to start intellectualizing with the issue, it's very easy to just become trapped by the story and the narrative that you're telling yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, what I'm explaining to you, is it true? What evidence do I have it's true? This is part of a process from a lady named Byron Katie that wrote a really good book called Loving What Is. And her inquiry process starts with those two questions. And then it would be, how do I feel when I have this thought? So when you have a thought like, I can't work out, I can't get this in, like, that's not a very empowering thought. That is a disempowering thought. I can't keep my routine together because of all the stress associated with the holidays. Well, the follow-up question to that is, how would I feel without that thought? And if you can separate your emotion and be logical about this, I think most people would agree that if I could feel truly that it is not stressful for me to go work out during the holidays, it's just a daily commitment that I have to make to myself, that the feelings of stress associated would dissipate. Oftentimes we make the issue a lot bigger than what it truly is. So I would start with questions. The next thing that I would do is I would stick to my exact routines. Yeah. Now I may modify the times a bit, but if I work out in the morning, I'm going to work out in the morning. Now, if we're talking Christmas Day, okay, I'll give you a pass. Yeah. I'll give you a pass. I get it. But like Christmas Eve, why not? The day after Christmas, why not?
Day.
It's Christmas Day.
It's not Christmas week. It's not Christmas month.
Yeah, you don't need to take off from the 25th to the 1st just because you know you're going to really get after it on the 1st.
Yeah, it sounds good in theory.
Yeah, but oftentimes we see people, and we know this just because we track data on this. Yeah. People are very excited on January 1. We often don't see those people till mid-January, maybe mid-February. And I could go into a lot of interesting data about how long people stick to that when they actually are just resolution focused as opposed to habit-based focused all year round. And compliance to these habits will automate them. So if I walk so much now, I don't ever have to think about, did I walk a minimum of 7,500 steps a day? It's just what I do, And I think these simple things, if you can accept that they are able to be scheduled into your life, they're literally the thing that it gives you that buffer against stress. Yeah. And it'll help you look and feel the way you want to feel. Like I know that's the reason why most people are here is they want to look and feel their best. Well, I can assure you that there is this monster inside of you that must be managed. And it's called your autonomic nervous system. And there's two sides of it, the fight or flight, which is like your I'm stressed out system. Okay, and then you've got the other side, which is your rest and digest. The nerd words for that are sympathetic and parasympathetic. In order to recover and feel good and look good, you have to be able to shift parasympathetically. And this comes back to what we were talking about with the gas model before, is when this stimulus happens, you create a sympathetic response. Cortisol raises, all your stress hormones just take off, okay? Well, once we can calm that down, which we can logic our way out of it with questions, we can breathe, we can put pen to paper, we can talk to somebody else, we can mitigate some of that stress. In the context of a workout, that's getting a good night's sleep, getting a post-workout meal, making sure you're getting good quality food all day. And if we do that well, we will then become more resilient because of it. But most people don't understand stress well enough to manage it. They feel like it's something that is always imposed on them that they can't control. So by way of asking yourself questions, sticking to your routines, you're building up enough evidence that you can do this. And again, all it takes is you doing this a couple times and it sticks.
I think another thing that also helps, which is stuff that we've talked about a lot, is like having people to keep you accountable. Like stuff like this is really tough when you feel like you're in this alone. And I would hope that none of our clients feel like that they're in this alone, because when you struggle with those type of things, that's what I want our clients to come with this to. And that's where some of this conversation came from, was when we were talking with some clients and hearing what they were going through. And we know others are going through it. They just may not want to fess up to what they're struggling with us sometimes. But you got to remember, that's why we're here. We're here to help you through this area, not to judge you or shame you because of what you're struggling with. I mean, that's the whole reason that we're doing this podcast, while we're wanting to do this extra stuff to provide more value for the people we're trying to help.
Health and fitness is it's a holistic thing. It's not I work out and then nothing else that I do matters and I'll just be healthy and fit. So there are times where, like, if any of you listen to this, like other gyms that you've gone to or other places you've visited, I can all but guarantee conversations about how you're dealing with stress was not part of the training conversation. I can all but guarantee it because, I mean, quite frankly, I don't think most trainers understand stress very well. No. But we're not the regular gym. The coaches in our building have a level of education and understanding about this stuff that is really hard to match. So I would encourage you, if you're listening to this, whenever you're going through a stressful period in your life, I'm not saying you have to like divulge all the details, but talk to your coach about that. Because if you are in a high stress situation and your training intensity is too high, that will actually just drive you into a more stressful situation. Mm-hmm. So not only are those conversations like valuable for you to have just to kind of mentally sort through everything and prioritize the stuff that you value the most or that's most important to you, but it's really valuable to make sure that you get the results you deserve too. Yeah. Because if you're just hammering through workouts during really stressed out times, I can all but bet we don't have the adaptive reserves to really get the benefits out of that. So, I think that's a really good point. And when it comes to accountability, this is a two-way street. If I'm trying to hold you accountable and you're unwilling to that, it just feels like I'm badgering you about stuff, mm-hmm. or I'm just like poking at you about things you're not doing. But that's not a coach relationship, Yeah, that's probably the best way. I lost my train of thought there a little bit, but
yeah, no, it's that's good. I think that's some good insight for those type of things right there. Now we've already talked about like what stress is, like why fitness is important with the buffer of that. We've talked a little bit about like maintaining your routines and whatnot. Now I'm not sure if everyone has seen or looked through it, but there is something that we dropped here over about 2 weeks ago. That something that Maddie worked pretty hard on, her holiday survival guide. Do you want to touch on that a little bit about some stuff that includes and how some of our members may need to be using that over this next couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, all the things that we just talked about require a lot of effort, mm-hmm. and a lot of self-reflection. But what we've realized is that the majority of people are not willing to do that. Yeah. So when we run challenges and we run programs, we try to install the most important things that you need in your life and find a convenient way for you to do that. So like anybody that's ever done our challenges, like the nutrition manuals that Maddie creates are pure gold. They make it really easy for you to know what to eat, when to eat it, everything, how to grocery shop for it, the whole nine. So that's a big thing and a big value point there. And your coach will also help you install these other 5 habits, which I'm not going to go into here. Hopefully you've been reading my emails. But the next version of the Holiday Survival Blueprint does release December 1. That program will help ensure that you do the right things from now until Christmas. And then we're giving you permission to take Christmas off. And if you're out of town or you have a really good reason to take off from Christmas until New Year, I get it. But we want to make sure that we really help people get through up till Christmas. Mm-hmm. So if you know you need a little more accountability, you know that you need to moderate stress a little bit better, like you know that you need to install these habits that we constantly talk about, walking 10,000 steps a day, drinking 90 ounces of water, sleeping 7 to 8 hours a day, eating a calorie-controlled, whole food, nutritious diet, and exercising on a regular basis. Like if you need more help installing those things into your life, this program does it for you. You have to commit, and then we will hold you accountable to the results. So, and then after that, leading into the first of the year, we will, I think it's January 14th, we've got it on the books, I think. We'll start our next round of 42 Strong, which for any of you listening, if you're not in a place where you want to take on something like the Holiday Survival Blueprint right now, I get it, although I would still highly suggest it. 42 Strong, this go around is going to be our best ever. I would suggest it's probably going to be our biggest ever as well. We got quite a few new members that I think will get a lot out of it, and we're going to continue to market it pretty hard so we can keep bringing in people that want to make a big difference in their health and fitness. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially for any of our members that do it, we are going to continue doing our Black Card deal. So if you have a family member, a friend, or someone like that that would find some value in the way we do things at BCI and is looking for that next thing, that's a free gift that you get to give somebody for Christmas or right after Christmas is their admission into the 42 Strong.
Well, let me give you a little tip on that too. pain shared is pain divided.
Yeah.
So you go through an experience like this with a friend, and it really helps both of you. On the flip side of that, happiness shared is happiness multiplied. When you're in a room with a bunch of people laughing, or everybody feels good, like the energy's good. So if you can bring somebody into your circle and your world, into this challenge, you'll start to influence their habits and behaviors as well. And there'll be this, dare I say, energetic transfer there, right? Where like they feel better about themselves, you feel better about yourself, and that kind of radiates out. That's why we're such a big advocate of like including your family in all of this as well, because if your environment is set up to support your health and fitness, and that's the people, the food, like everything, if your environment is set up in that way, you have a much greater chance. When you're on a journey solo by yourself trying to do these things, and everybody else in your life kind of lives in contrast to that,
tough.
It's a brutal thing. And I think you've probably experienced it, even as young as you are. I experienced it. When you really go into this, you start to realize that not everybody wants to go into it. It's hard. It's hard.
And when things get hard, and which that I want to get ahead of myself with some other podcasts we might do, but like when things are hard, like it's tough to do things alone. And that's why we always talk about accountability. Like I know some of our members have heard about the Tate and Cam challenge.
Yep.
Like we've talked about, like us coaching our sessions and getting our training, and it is hard sometimes. And we get in ruts throughout the year just the same way y'all do. We are human beings. Just because we do this for a living doesn't make us perfect. So me and Cam did our own little personal challenge. Hey, I challenge you between now and the end of the year because I'm struggling and I need some extra thing to help keep me on track. And that's really helped me and Cam for the back end of the year. We've been doing it since August. So I agree, like having someone in your ecosystem, like around you that is going through the same thing and willing to suffer. I mean, that's why I made some of my best friends in the military, because we suffered together.
Suffer together. Yeah.
And it just creates a different type of bond. And it just helps you because you have someone to relate with going through the same thing that you are.
Yeah. Everybody wants to look good and feel good. And that is more of an inside game than an outside game. And there are people around you and in your world that you can influence and impact. And in my opinion, if you can impact someone and get them to start investing more in their health, it's one of the most powerful things that you can do for that person. If you can change that person, there's probably some leverage that's created where they can start to impact people in their family. Mm-hmm. And when they start impacting people in their family, now they start to impact everybody in their peer group. And if everybody in their peer group is now doing this, the people in kind of outside of those friendships start to residually be impacted by that. You do that long enough, man, and you look around, it's like, like my whole world is fit, healthy, happy people. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's what I'm trying to intentionally create in my world, is I want to surround myself with healthy and fit people that want to do big things. That's, I want to do, I love this saying by Naval, he's a brilliant guy. But it's I want to play long-term games with long-term people. Mm. And there is no longer-term game than health. Yeah. That's the game.
Because it's just not an overnight thing. It's one of those things that's it's a slow grind.
Well, and life is, so also the hard part about this is that life is a game of attrition. Mm. Humans are stress-adaptive organisms.
I have about 10% left. So.
Okay. We're running a little on battery low. We'll tie this up. But humans are stress-adaptive organisms. So as you go through life, what usually happens is we get older, we start to do less, right? That is actually the exact opposite of what we should do. As we get older, we should do the same. Mm. Like if you never quit sprinting from 20 years old to 70 years old, you'll be able to sprint when you're 70. If you continue to lift from 20 to 70, you will be able to lift until you were 70. Yeah. Now the caveat to that is you can't just lift, right? You have to sleep well, eat well, do all these things.
There's more factors to it.
There's more factors to it. And your entire environment is set up to make that very challenging for you. So,
especially in today's age.
Yeah.
So more of the story, surround yourself with like people.
And we know a whole gym full of them. Yeah. So that's the good thing. But you only see us an hour a day, right? So I think being very intentional with the people that you spend your time around is important. And I'll throw one last thing in for those of you that deal with a lot of guilt during family time during the holidays. I promise you, if you actually have a family that loves you, if you choose to not overeat or say no to pie, and I'm not saying you have to do this, or I'm just saying if you choose to do that, they will support you. And if they don't, well, there's some good information to take away from that as well.
Yeah.
So don't feel like you can't stick to these things during the holidays just because the majority of the people in your world will not. It's okay to be the oddball.
Kind of feeds to what we were talking about just a second ago. Just like if I'm living a certain type of way, it's gonna like someone's gonna potentially ask why, and that just like purely me going to a family thing saying no, I'm gonna stay off the pie because this is important to me during this time. That's gonna sit with some of your family members. Be like,
100%.
Usually they're really into the pie. They're saying no to their favorite pie because of why.
Yeah.
I want to know why. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that might sit with them. That could change a life, and that. So again, little things like that, you never know how that's going to sit with other people. So,
yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to close it up.
Yeah.
I want to keep these a little bit under 30 minutes, at least for now, until we want to go a little bit deeper. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I feel like there's a lot of actionable stuff that we just talked about. But if you have any questions about it, like please drop them. Reach out to me. Reach out to Tate. If there's anything else you want us to talk about, please let us know that as well. We're kind of planning out these episodes ahead of time anyway, but we'll start to catalog the stuff that you guys really want to hear from us or that you're interested in. I don't care what it is. Like it could be about Ozempic, right? Mm-hmm. That's a big topic in the world. It could be about keto diets. It could be about exercising with oxygen. It could be, there's any subject that you're running into that you're intrigued about, I can all but guarantee we've got the answers, and if we don't, we know who does. Mm-hmm. So we can get those answers if we don't have the real expertise to answer them. So yeah,
I dig it. Yeah. All right, well, happy holidays and stay tuned for the next episode.
Take care, folks. See you soon.